Hi, I'm Dr. Philbert Aaron. I'm the author of the Eastern Caribbean Political Power Playbook, 10 Strategies Behind Prime Minister Skerrit's Success. And this is how I wrote it. I was having lunch with a friend in New Jersey. I work in New York. And he told me about a friend and colleague, publisher of Madison and Park Agency. And he said, actually, if you are writing and you have a manuscript that you want published, that's the place to go. And I said, pretty interesting. He slipped me the number. I called Raphael Gordon, and we hit it up right away. I had a few conversations, aligned, our interests were aligned, and that's how it started. Yeah, so I'm the author of the Eastern Caribbean Political Power Playbook, 10 Strategies Behind Prime Minister Skerrit's Success. And I wrote this book because there was a lack of knowledge, there was a gap in what we knew about how a Prime Minister of the Eastern Caribbean came to office and achieved longevity in office, lasted in office. And that gap meant that new leaders did not know how to approach the stage, did not know how to get into office, and absolutely did not know how to succeed in office to the extent that they would be able to last. And I set about filling that gap, and that is what I've done with the Eastern Caribbean Political Power Playbook. Actually, I shouldn't be in this chair talking about having written a book, the Eastern Caribbean Political Power Playbook. I started off in abject poverty, lacking the most basic things. However, knowledge, the desire to acquire knowledge and to share knowledge took me from the poverty situation that I was in, helped me to overcome the failure that I had in school, repeated a year of high school, and it gave me the drive to know, and especially to know politics and political leadership. And that turned me around, helped me to get a bachelor's degree in Togo, West Africa. Amazing journey, but it wasn't easy at all. Challenging journey to my first degree. However, that set me up to earn a master's degree in the United States because I won a Fulbright fellowship. And eventually, I completed a PH.D. degree in the US. And that actually launched me into my dream job, which was being a professor at the university. And it was while I was a professor at the university that the Prime Minister of Dominica, who had just become the youngest Prime Minister in the world, remembered the impact that I had being a teacher in high school when he was a student, and invited me to join his administration and become his ambassador to Venezuela. That was my first ambassadorial position. Since then, he has reappointed me to be Dominica's ambassador to the United Nations, permanent representative in New York. The stereotype of the writer is usually a male who sits by himself for long hours, thinking of things that might just be in his head. But my writing process here was not the stereotypical writing process. This is a book about leadership practice. This is a book about how leaders work. And so it is as a result of working up close with Prime Minister Skerrit, who, by the way, was the longest serving Prime Minister of Dominica and the second longest serving Prime Minister in the Caribbean. I spent 10 years watching him up close because I was his ambassador. I also served as the PRO, that is the public relations officer of his political party. And from those positions, I was able to be on mission with the Prime Minister. I was able to be in the office of the Prime Minister, to sit in meetings with the Prime Minister, to sit in debriefs with the Prime Minister, and to observe his practice. And to reach back, as a matter of fact, having observed the very first footsteps that he made as a leader. That is, he was elected to president of the student body of his high school. So I was able to observe those practices and day after day to document those practices and analyzing that information, seeking out patterns, what repeated, how did he do things, how did his practice change over time, how did his practice vary from the practice of other leaders, what explained why he won election after election, what went into his lasting longer than any other Dominican prime minister. Year after year, I worked at these things and wrote periodically, such that after a number of years, I had a manuscript, not necessarily on deadline chapter by chapter, but a whole text that featured the prime minister in his practices and explained how longevity of a prime minister in the Eastern Caribbean is done. The challenges were not your usual challenges. One of the biggest challenges is that of writing about someone who is changing, who is growing, who's developing. But there is also the big challenge of writing about a political leader who is in the public's eye. For example, the prime minister is still my boss. The subject of my writing is still my boss. I'm analyzing what he's doing. I'm seeing what the effects of his work are. So the challenge is for me to find out in my own judgment the things that I write about him. Is he going to like them? Are they going to have an impact on his practice? And especially because it is competition, because it is political leadership, are his critics, his opponents, are they going to find things in there that they could use to hurt him? Those are the kinds of challenges that come with this non-traditional writing process. And these can be challenging too, maybe more challenging than the usual life changes, the challenges that authors generally have. But those were the challenges that were peculiar for the practice that I did, the writing method that I used. So persisting through it was absolutely challenging. But what got me through day after day, month after month, year after year, is knowing how important filling this wide space of knowledge was. A region, and that region has a really peculiar practice, political leadership practice. So no one had done that work. And given that it was unlikely that anybody from outside would do that work, it means that it fell on the shoulders of somebody like myself. And in this case, I took it up to be my responsibility to contribute this knowledge to the world. And so being totally committed to making that contribution to knowledge, making that contribution to filling that white space in the leadership of our countries, that got me through day after day, month after month, year after year, and took me through the challenges. I started to write this book before becoming UN permanent representative. But what it has done, that is being at the UN, has confirmed a pattern that I had observed earlier, which is that powerful political jobs look successful, look effective, even when they're not. That means that observers, citizens, media look at people in those powerful jobs. So it could be powerful diplomatic jobs or powerful political jobs. And because of the power of those jobs, the tendency is to judge all the occupants of those jobs as successful and as equally successful. But many of those leaders are not effective or not successful. Many of them fail. And so, what being at the United Nations has continued to confirm for me is that Some leaders fail, some succeed. And generally, as I did with the playbook, I seek out, I get confirmation of the practices that repeat and are effective and explain why leaders in diplomacy or in politics succeed at satisfying the people who vote for them, the people who support them, the people who are behind them in one way or the other. If a sitting prime minister in the Eastern Caribbean read this book, he might be nervous, because this book decodes the rules for succeeding in the job of prime minister, the rules for satisfying your voters. So at least to begin with, a prime minister would be nervous. However, there would be, in the end, the confidence of knowing those rules, and as such, being able to practice their leadership in a way that is effective. And every prime minister wants to last. Even if the prime minister, in the end, chooses to give up office, but he does not want to be kicked out of office. And so there is a certain amount of satisfaction, of relief that a prime minister, sitting prime minister in the Eastern Caribbean would get from reading this book that decodes the rules for getting to office and succeeding in office, attaining the longevity that prime ministers seek. Working with Madison and Park Agency was a breeze. It was as easy as drinking water, something absolutely natural. The people at Madison and Park Agency know what they're doing. They know what they're about. They know where to place emphasis on the creative, and as such, it makes life and work really easy, really breezy. And I'm so glad I was able to work with the Madison and Park Agency on my dream project, writing the Eastern Caribbean Political Power Playbook. There's some things that publishing a book does for you, and publishing this book has done that. So there would be discussions. I would be involved in debates, conversations. I would introduce an idea. And fortunately, now that the book is published, it is absolutely interesting to have someone you're discussing with say, I'm going to get that book. I want to continue to explore the ideas that you introduced in our conversation. It is also very interesting to have old friends, people I studied with along the way, reaching out and getting the book and telling me about it, telling me about those ideas. Those are really interesting moments that result from publishing a book. I really hope that readers get to understand something that is very important about our Eastern Caribbean region. Leadership in our region, as leadership in many regions of the developing world, is underestimated. People think it's just easy breezy, people think it's just fun, people think it's light, that there's a lack of strategy. This is because they do not understand that we have a unique political system, and a unique political system requires a unique political leadership practice. And so, if a reader reads this book, he or she gets to understand that there's a unique region with a unique political system and a unique political practice. And if they get that, which is what I hope they get, my job is done completely. Publishing the way I did, writing it, publishing it, requires attention to detail, attention to things that change daily. That is political leadership practice. Things happen. Tragedies come, and go. Elections are won, elections are lost. Things change. However, the ability to stick with the job, to stick with the project, it's a long-term project. The ability especially to look for things that repeat, things that are forming a given pattern. In this case, for example, we have elections. In our system, the Eastern Caribbean political system, elections come at most every 5 years. There's the need to be able to follow what happens throughout those cycles. And that is something that's absolutely necessary for somebody writing the kind of book that I've written about decoding the political leadership practice of the Eastern Caribbean. My advice to anybody starting up a project like mine that is desiring to contributing to filling up a void in knowledge, filling up white space that may exist in whatever area that writer focuses on. My advice is to stick with it, stick to it, don't give up. It's challenging. It's probably the most challenging thing you can do, is looking at white space and committing to filling it up. So it requires persistence. It requires courage. And my advice is to stick with it. Don't give up. Follow through until you have done what you set out to do. I'm Dr. Philbert Aaron. I'm a Madison and Park Global author, and that's how I wrote it.